In this video, I want to take a look at these Omnivises. And before you think this is a Hakko Omnivise, it is not actually. These are third-party ones. And the reason I make this video is I wanted to do a bit of a review on them and to see if they are worth it in comparison to the actual Hakko Omnivises. So the reason I got these is to actually upgrade from this PCB motherboard holder. I've had this thing for a very long time, probably since I started out doing repairs like 6 years ago, and it has definitely done its job. It has served me well, but it was definitely time for this one to go. It's of course not in the best visual condition anymore, but also I had a very big problem with this PCB holder. I grab a PCB here, for example. Basically need to press it completely together to make sure that the PCB stays in place. But it would always get loose somehow if I have my soldering iron and I'm trying to solder on here, or if I'm trying to remove the analog sticks. You can already see it's pretty loose, and I've definitely tightened this to the max possible. And at some point, basically due to the vibrations and stuff going on, this will basically loosen very slowly, and then the PCB will just go out. If you look at videos I've recorded with this thing, you can see it happening over and over again, and I just got tired of that, so I had to look for an upgrade. So the thing is that if you look at repair YouTubers, most of them use the Hakko Omnivise. So of course I started to look at those first of all. But the thing is that in Europe, or at least in the Netherlands where I live, that these Hakko Omnivises are basically 95 euros, or on Amazon I can see them for 160 euros for one Omnivise. And of course, these Omnivises are great, but they did not sound worth it at all for 160 for one. It was just insane. So I thought there needs to be something else out there, which is a good alternative. So I started searching some more on Amazon and I found these two PCB holders, which obviously is very inspired by the Hakko Omnivise. It's basically third party. And these ones were like 36 euros. So I had to give them a try, obviously. I just got two of these and I have used them a couple of times already on controller motherboards for removing analog sticks, and they have been great so far. So in terms of this being a review type of video, I just want to throw out there first that if you live in a country where the Hakko Omnivise is 100 euros, or I think even in Canada it's like 100 Canadian, definitely give these a shot. It's absolutely worth it. If you're living in the United States, I've also checked those prices between third party and Hakko. I think it's a little cheaper in the US actually. I think Hakko Omnivise is $75 and the third party ones are like 50. So you can argue that it's worth it to throw the $25 more into that to get yourself the original thing. So basically the Hakko was not worth it obviously, so I had to get third party ones instead, and I just want to see how these ones would hold up and if these are worth it in comparison to the Hakko Omnivices. So before we are going to start using these, I just want to go over some simple statistics, I guess. So first of all is the weight of the Hakko Omnivise and this one. So I think Nanofix actually made a video about the Hakko Omnivise, and I saw on the paper that comes with the Omnivice that the weight of that thing is 1.2 kilograms. So I have a little thing right here where we can weigh these ones, and I want to see how much these weigh in comparison to the Hakko Omnivise. So I think I should turn off the light right here so that it is a bit more visible. And you can see down in the bottom that this one is 1.2 kilograms, 1.275. So basically the same amount as the Hakko Omnivise. And I will also take this one, throw that on there. And this one is 1.269. So it's basically the same weight as the Hakko Omnivise. So that's already a great start. One of my main concerns with these third-party ones is that the weight would be significantly less than the Hakko Omnivise. But so far these seem to be exactly the same. So in terms of the weight, they should actually do a pretty good job of holding the PCB into place. So that should not be a concern when considering buying these ones. So it's a great start for these third-party ones. The Omnivise and also the Hakko Omnivise, I'm pretty sure, basically consists of two different parts right here, as you can see. This is all pure metal, actually, as we can hopefully hear right here when I tap on these different parts. But it's basically all metal, and then we have a bit of rubber right here in the middle to protect the PCB, which we want to put in between these parts, and this basically all consists of two parts. So it's a very simple construction. And here we have four settings, technically five. Now it's at the lowest setting, and if we want to move it, we open this up right here. So we turn it a bit outwards, and then we can basically move it. Then we can put it into one or two or three or the last one. And yeah, it basically it's sets quite a bit higher comparison with the other one. I have no idea how much this is, maybe 3 centimeters difference, I think. It does not really have a purpose for me personally, so I will basically use it on the lowest setting right here. But maybe if you are working on different types of motherboards, it may be helpful to be able to set these onto different height settings. But yeah, it's a very simple device, and yeah, also the reason why I think the Hakko ones are pretty overpriced. And yeah, this is definitely already a better deal for the price you are paying for something like this. So another thing I want to compare is the height differences of the actual device. So here I've written down the Hakko dimensions. I will put them up on the screen since this is a little bit messy. But let's just start with the bottom piece. So going side to side. So the Hakko Omnivise is supposed to be 57 millimeters, which is 5.7 centimeters. So if we are going to measure this as best as I can, and I'm not kidding when I say that this is the exact same size actually. I think it is also actually 57 millimeters, and this should be the exact same dimensions. So now I'm going to measure the height on the lowest setting. So here it's basically at 0, and on the highest setting right here, so at the setting 4. So the Hakko Omnivise is supposed to be 72 millimeters when it's at its lowest setting, and that is measured from the bottom up until the padding right here. So this part and this part we skip, and we only going to measure this part. Should at least be a little bit easier to do. And I'm measuring here 7.2 centimeters, and that is also the same as the Hakko Omnify. So far it's actually the exact same dimensions. And if this is the same, I'm also expecting this size to be the same. On the Hakko, it's supposed to be 97.5 millimeters, and this one I can see it's 97 millimeters, so it's basically the same size. So this, in terms of size and weight, is the exact same as the Hakko Omnivise so far. So yeah, I think I expected this maybe to be a little bit smaller, maybe than the Hakko, but yeah, it's actually the exact same, so I have no words for it. So far, it seems like a pretty good copy of the Omnivise, especially for the price. And the last thing, which is maybe the only factor in which it might actually be worth it to get the Hakko Omnify, is the ESD safety. The Hakko is ESD safe. They say that on the site as well as on the packaging. For these ones, I could not find any information about them being ESD safe, so I would assume these are not ESD safe. If that is important for you, then of course you need to look at the Hakko Omnify. But if you are already working in a ESD safe environment, you can probably also afford a ESD safe Omnivise. So this is definitely more for the hobbyists that are looking at a upgrade for the PCB holder and to see if these ones are worth it. But so far it's definitely looking good for these two products which we have right here. Alright, so now I would like to look at, at only one Omnivise for now, since I want to look at these controller PCBs right here. Me myself, I tend to work more on controllers than actual console motherboards. So most of the time I will only be using one of these. But I would like to look at the performance of this Omnivise vertically but also horizontally. You are supposed to use them in both orientations, at least the Hakko Omnivise. So of course I would like to try if this one also has a decent performance horizontally and vertically. So I think I will save this one for the vertical test, at least when the PCB is vertically. So here we have two PlayStation 4 motherboards. Let's say I will work on this one. We want to get this into the Omnivise, which is very simple. We just turn right here and you will see it open up. And there will be some plastic in the middle right here, which actually still is on this one since I haven't had to use this one. But you see some plastic on here, you will need to remove that from the rubber. It's a bit of a rubber layer in here, so it will protect your PCB. And the only thing I will mention is that you need to pay attention where you are going to clamp the Omnivise down on your PCB. I've worked with some PlayStation 5 motherboards and I accidentally put this part up on a connector which sits around here, which is for the share pad, I think. And it did not completely ruin the connector, but it dented the plastic in the way where the connector would not slide in and out anymore. So I had to pry up the plastic so I could get it working again. So it ended well for me, but of course it could also have completely destroyed the connector if I would have tightened it too much. So you need to definitely look at the motherboard and see where is a nice place to actually clamp this PCB down. So I think right here is the best option. And then of course we need to put it a little bit on the side and then we can close it. And if you look at this, then I think it's a pretty good shoe. I think it's clamped down very properly. I cannot get this out. If I would dare, I could probably hold it onto this one. You can see that's how good of a grip it has. Do not do this with the motherboard you actually need to work on, but yeah, this is incredible so far. What can I say? So now we have the motherboard in place and I will get you under the microscope so we can try and remove a component. So here we are under the microscope and you can see this is a motherboard which I still need to work on, but this controller definitely had stick drift since someone tried to put some resistors in between the potentiometers. Maybe we can try and move this cap, which we can see right here. I think that is a pretty good target. And of course, I will tell you that this is very close to the actual Omnivise. So if I angle this, you can see the Omnivise right here. So it's pretty safe to work on here. I can try to move further away for where the Omnivise is sitting and basically go further up the PCB, and maybe we can also remove some components right here. See how that performs in comparison. But for now, let's start with this component right here. Okay, so that is the capacitor removed. And yeah, what can I say? This was so far very successful. I will place this capacitor back, I want to say, but that just flew off God knows where. Oh, I actually found the capacitor. And I lost it again, so that is amazing. Doesn't really matter. So let's move the PCB. And it's also a upside of this thing. Of course, it's of course very small in comparison to the actual PCB holder right here. So you can just turn it, and then we can work a bit more right here. This is of course more on the edge of the motherboard. So I just want to see how the PCB holder holds up with that. So let's move this diode out of the way. Same temperature on the hot air station, and let's see how that goes. And there's the diode removed, and yeah, that also went very smoothly. No challenge for this PCB board holder. So that's the test so far. Then using this PCB holder vertically, with the PCB being horizontal, and yeah, this is absolutely successful. I mean, this just does not go anywhere at all. It just does an amazing job of holding it on, especially in comparison to the old PCB holder right here. It's absolutely great, so I think we will just move on to using this PlayStation 3 motherboard vertically. And I want to try and remove this USB port right here. Not sure if that is going to work out that well, but I at least want to try. At least the nice thing right here is that I have already removed the analog sticks. So I should just be able to put it in pretty far. Makes this thing look better than it actually is, since of course the farther you can put this in, the more sturdiness it gets. So here is the PCB in, and I will bring it a little bit close to the camera. You see it's definitely in pretty flat. So should not be many components stuck on there. And again, I can actually hold it on the PCB and just let this go. And it just grips it perfectly fine. I mean, I am very enthusiastic about this PCB holder. I will see if I can get you a view under the camera, under the microscope camera, or maybe that's a bit too close up. Okay, so I think I have figured out a setup that works hopefully a little bit if the main camera can stay into focus. So above here you can see the microscope camera in the corner, and the main view is actually from the phone camera. So hopefully it will become a bit more clear if the PCB holder is moving a lot, or yeah, how it actually performs, since of course in this case the actual port removal is not that important. So I will actually go up quite a bit in temperature. I will go to 425 with a airflow speed of 50% again, and we will see how it goes. Now, this is not very successful so far. But yeah, of course this is the only tool component on this board, so it's the only way it makes sense to try and remove it. Of course, I would not actually recommend that. I mean, you could just literally turn the PCB around and have this thing upwards, and it's much easier to remove it that way. But yeah, so far, moi. Now, it just does not want to get heated properly. So before this thing burns itself completely, I will stop doing that, and I will just turn it around and remove the port that way at least. So at least we have done that. It's definitely not as stable that way. It tends to roll around a bit, which is of course not surprising. Maybe I'm also not doing this right. Definitely possible. But I had a feeling that it was maybe only the front legs actually got melted and the rest did not really get melted that much. So it's kind of unfortunate. But I will try again when I'm going to try the console motherboard, since I also want to test that. And you can see that the USB has come out very smoothly. So I mean, for this upright work, it definitely does the job very well. I mean, zero instability on this PCB right here. So very nice removal right there. Unfortunately not with the PCB holder horizontally, but maybe I also did not really do it right. It's definitely possible. Maybe I should have leaned onto this part right here so it cannot roll around as much. I think that maybe would have made it better. So for the console, I will try that, see how that goes. So this is a Xbox One motherboard, and I basically have used this as a bit of a practice motherboard since I wasn't really able to fix it. I think if I hold it up like this, maybe you can see that this board is pretty warped, especially around the APU. May also have been for my RAM practice rebuilding stuff. So basically, this is a perfect practice board, and I think it's a good candidate to use with these Omnivises. And like I said earlier, I would definitely recommend you use two Omnivises for these type of consoles, since with one Omnivise only, it's going to be very unstable. And also need to pay attention, of course, where you are going to put the Omnivise. I think right here is a good place to put the Omnivise, since here there are no components, it's all unpopulated, so that's perfect. And you can already see this might be different with the actual Hakko Omnivise, but yeah, this thing is already falling over, so definitely way too heavy for one Omnivise. So it's definitely a good idea to use two Omnivises, and I think on this corner right here I can put the other one, and maybe here is where the height differences come in handy, since this one is at the lowest setting, the one right here, it's a little bit out of frame, but if I put this one right here, the motherboard is going to flex since this Omnify sits lower than the actual motherboard. So I will try and put this in the first setting, right here, and see how that goes. See if that can maybe help out a little bit. Mm, maybe it's a little bit too high right now, but I will not clamp it down as much then. So I will leave it like that, and I think the actual Omnify sits pretty straight. I will try and show you on the phone camera. So here is the first one. Yeah, it's definitely a bit skewed right there. As long as the motherboard is straight, not really a problem. Here sits the other Omnify. It's definitely a lot straighter than the other one, but I haven't have it completely tied down, since otherwise I think the motherboard is going to flex a little bit. So right now it's really stable. Even if I press on the corner right here, will sit into place very well. So happy with that. So I think this is a pretty good setup. So I have the phone on the side again, and the microscope is just out of frame up here. You can see the lens right here. So I will show the microscope up in the corner. I think I will put it up here. Might be a little big, but I think you get the idea. And we are going to try and remove this RAM chip right here. So I can also try and use my V-bonding skills a little bit, which definitely need a lot of practice. So I will max out the hot air station. We will remove this RAM chip. And there it already is. So there we go. So that is one RAM chip removed. It's nicely cooked, as we can see right here. So yeah, that was kind of uneventful, relatively. Went really well. So, and I will try right here as well to also go to a component on the side. So I have moved the microscope over to the side, and we are now right here on the motherboard. So on the edge, and I will see if how that goes. But honestly, I think it will go perfectly fine. I can already tell it's much easier to work with these Omnivises in comparison to having it on the ground, since it's definitely a bit more unstable. Given that there, of course, there are components on the underside of the motherboard, which will make sure that the motherboard will be moving around when you are trying to remove chips, and here it will stay that quiet, that straight, and you will have zero issues with removing components which are flat on the motherboard like that. I know you can't really see much, but you can see this is maybe the more unstable corner of the motherboard. But yeah, this is going very easily and very smoothly. So I will now try and press on the chip right here and get it into place again. See how that goes. Yeah, that went absolutely perfect. So I think in terms of horizontally testing this, it's yeah absolutely perfect. And I already said it at the beginning. If you want a simple upgrade for your Omnify, for your cheap PCB holder, then these things will definitely do the job for you. Now set up the motherboard vertically, Omnivises horizontally, and see how that will perform. Alright, so I have put the motherboard vertically with these ones horizontally, and this time I did actually pay attention to the black piece right there with which we can set up the height of the Omnivise, and I actually put it down right here so that the motherboard is not going to be rolling around, and this one is not even set up the same way. So but even then, if I try and put the motherboard out of the way, you can see it's dead stable. It's absolutely perfect. So definitely my mistake with the console motherboard, with the controller motherboard, for not paying attention to that. I think if I would have done that, it would have been absolutely stable. So just FYI, if you are planning to use the Omnivices in this setup. And the idea I have right now is to remove this capacitor right here. So I think this capacitor is maybe bad, possibly. So I will just remove it. I think it's a good candidate. Okay, so I think this camera angle should still work fine. Again, here's the capacitor we are going to remove. Here is the main camera view. And hopefully should still show you how well the motherboard is get into place. Let's just go for it. And I will use my air station at 425 at 50% airflow. And I see that the camera does not like to be in this position. But let's see if we can remove this capacitor. I know the capacitor is not ready right now, but you can see if I wiggle on it, that the motherboard does move a little bit, but it's definitely 100% stable. The PCB holders are not going anywhere at all. You can see the capacitor is ready to come out, and there it is. So I haven't seen how it looked on camera, but yeah, that was very smoothly done. No issues whatsoever. So these Omnivices are a big success for sure. So at this point, I've done all the tests I wanted to do with these Omnivices, and yeah, my conclusion is 100% that it is absolutely worth it to get it, especially as an upgrade for your cheap PCB holder. I mean, I've used mine for 6 years and it's definitely had its best time. I do not see myself go back to that very soon, to be honest. I mean, of course, I will keep it around, but I don't think it will get much usage after getting these two Omnivices right here. And yeah, in comparison to the Hakko, at least in terms of specifications, this has the exact same weight, the same height, but is 2.5 times cheaper than the Omnivise, at least in Europe that is. So yeah, if you live in a country where the Hakko Omnivise is equal to amount 100 euros, definitely get these third-party ones. There's definitely a few different brands and stuff. I think they are all pretty similar. I got these ones from Amazon. You can get them from Aliexpress. Just look where you can get the best deal. But for 36 euros, you cannot beat the price. Comparison to the Hakko Omnivise, I think the only time where the Hakko Omnivise would be the choice for you is if you need ESD safety, like I said earlier in the video. But I think for most hobbyists that is not really going to play a important role. So I can 100% recommend these. I'm very happy that these ones are around. I think even last year there were barely any alternatives to the Hakko Omnivise, which is why I have continued to use my simple PCB holder for so long. I've been wanting to upgrade for a very long time, but yeah, I could not justify the price for a Hakko Omnivise, to be honest. So this is the perfect alternative, and a very straightforward conclusion is that this is a really nice device and very affordable. I mean, if you could even get 4 of these and still you could barely get one Hakko Omnivise for that in Europe. So that's very bizarre. But these are very good quality, to be honest. And yeah, if I need to have one piece of criticism, is if you like to vary between these height settings frequently, you are going to get a little bit of damage around here. That's kind of inevitable, I think. You could probably put some padding around here, so something silicone or rubber, so it will not have friction with the metal right here, or aluminium, I think it might be. But yeah, that's maybe the only downside. Maybe the Hakko is a little bit better quality, but it's definitely not 100 euro better quality. For me, this is not a big deal. It's not anything I'm worried about. I mean, all of the tools on my bench are going to get worn eventually, so I don't really care about that too much, to be honest. And it's a very simple device, so yeah, I don't see it die anytime soon unless you are abusing it or just not using it correctly. Also, that is very difficult to do, I think. So yeah, conclusion should be loud and clear at this point. These are definitely worth it in comparison to the Hakko Omnivise. Unless you are in a country where price difference between third party and Hakko is just minimum, then I would still recommend to get the Hakko Omnivise. Since yeah, of course it is easily safe, and yeah, it's Hakko. It's a pretty expensive brand, but of course it's good quality for sure. It's not. It will definitely last forever. So yeah, if the price difference is minimum, just get the Hakko. But if there is a big price difference, definitely get these ones. So I think that marks the end of the video. I want to thank you for watching. I hope it was valuable. If it was, you can leave a like on the video. You can even subscribe to the channel for more similar content. And I hope to see you in the next video. I wish you all a good day.